Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers review for Thursday, the 14th of March. It is match day, and what a match lies in store at Ibrox later on. Rangers taking on Benfica in the second leg of the Europa League last 16 tie. Rangers with an opportunity to progress to the quarter-finals, which would be absolutely magnificent. To look ahead to the game, Joshua joins me. How are we doing, Joshua?
Good, Derek. Yeah, looking forward to it. Rangers have been playing a lot recently, haven't they? But I thought Clement yesterday continued to look like a man who, while fighting without all his resources, is determined to try and win each game. Rangers, I think a lot of people would retain that Sunday is the more important game, but this is a huge game at home. Rangers have made such a habit of these type of European nights as of late. You shouldn't get used to them or take them for granted. And if they get through tonight, the Europa League is going to be very difficult to go far in, but you never know when you get to that stage. So looking forward to it, and obviously a lot to talk through before we get to the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty to chew over. The manager and James Tavernier spoke to the press yesterday. Interesting comments from them both. We heard from the Benfica boss as well, Roger Smith, who was at Ibrox conducting his press conference yesterday evening. We'll get stuck in. Just before we do that, just a quick word for the podcast sponsors, as ever, the MPH Group. Give these guys a call, folks, if you're looking for some home improvements. The all-important links are in the description below. And remember, it's a 5:45 kickoff tonight as well, so don't be turning up at 7 o'clock or what have you for the game. What normally is 8 o'clock. So, yeah, it's an early one. And Elvis, who lives in my neck of the woods, says, morning trips. Early start for the Merseyside orange and blue. Full bus leaving at 10:30. Absolutely magnificent. Slightly jealous I'm not on that bus along with you, Elvis, but I'm sure it'll be a cracking journey up the road. Let's hope it's a joyous one back down as well. Right, Joshua, where should we start then? Of course, the manager speaking yesterday. I think the big news from the press conference is that Todd Cantwell is back in contention, not to play 90 minutes, but he is able to feature at some point. Dujon Sterling will not be risked for the game tonight, hopefully with him returning at Dens Park at the weekend. And Ross McCausland trained a little bit yesterday. The manager said he still has a bit of blood in his calf from that challenge he sustained at Ibrox against Motherwell, and they'll make an assessment on him today, whether he features in the team. Myself and Chris predicted our lineups yesterday. It's on the website, folks. Do go check it out. We both agreed, I think, down to the fact that there's so little options for the manager to select for this one. I'll just fire up the team on the screen, Joshua, and you can let us know if you agree or disagree, folks, in the comments. So here it is. So Butland in goal, who I don't know if it's been announced the England squad, but he will be part
2 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, he's going to be part of the England squad, which is super stuff for Jack, fully deserved. So Butland in goal, Tavernier, Goldson, Suter, and Ridvan at the back. Lundstrom, Diamandi, that holding midfield pair. Lawrence just in front of those, with Silva on the left, as he has been in the last 2 games. Matondo on the right-hand side, with Cyril Dessers up top. Joshua, do you disagree with any of that?
Well, I guess firstly, just on the press conference, Derek, it was a rare kind of a good day for Rangers on the injury front, with the fact that Cantwell, I know 3 to 4 weeks was the initial diagnosis that was given. That was after the St Johnstone game, which was a few weeks ago. But obviously injuries at Rangers have kind of tended to be on the longer side rather than the shorter side. So the very fact that Dujon Sterling, while he'll be a huge miss tonight, and I don't think you can underestimate, not just because of his goal, Derek, but because of how much he gives you off the ball. Although last week I thought, he was a lot more offensive, and James Tavernier pretty defensive. Didn't really get an opportunity to attack the box. He'll be a huge miss, but the fact that it's not serious is really important for Rangers, because especially looking ahead to the Old Firm game after the international break, Dens Park might come too early for Dujon Sterling, but when you see a player go off with a hamstring injury, you think that could be a while. So that's a positive, and Todd Cantwell being back as well. Rangers really need him. Tom Lawrence has been really good, but we all know how light Rangers have been in those areas behind the striker. Cantwell, obviously, we've not seen him play off the left under Clement, but he can do that. Gives you some much needed legs. With that said, that team, I think, is the expected team, because I don't know. I'd be interested to see what people think in the comments. I see some asking if Seema's ready for the bench. He's not. I believe it'll be after the international break that Seema is back. I can't think of any real bones of controversy to throw in about that team, Derek. I guess Tom Lawrence starting 3 games in a row isn't ideal. It was a tough game. It was at Easter Road on Sunday, and there was a lot of running in that game, and Lawrence played a good chunk of it. But there's no real contentious issues apart from the fact that I think Diomande will be in the left side of midfield instead of John Lundstrom. Don't see Nico Raskin coming back in. We know that Ryan Jack has an issue that he picked up in Benfica. We know that Ross McCausland, as you said, probably comes too early for him. So that will be the team. Matondo is not the most natural on the right-hand side in possession, in transition in this type of game. It should give him opportunity to run it as fullback. And as we'll come on to speak about how the game played out last week, there is real opportunity, I think, in this game for Rangers, despite all the quality that Benfica have. That's the team I expect it to be as well. Never put too much on guessing the Philippe Clement starting 11. Interested to see what others think. If there's maybe a name or two they disagree with, not too many options for them to disagree with in terms of the strength and depth that Rangers have on the bench tonight, though.
Yeah, lots of comments coming in. I'll whack this team off so we can have fire some of them up. Alex Kelly says Cole McKinnon to start, use Matondo and Ruth for impact later in the game. We have seen Cole coming off the bench in the last couple of games and he has done well. So yeah, that's a good shout, Alex. Would be what an occasion it would be to chuck him in from the start. But yeah, I wouldn't have no qualms if I've seen him in the starting 11. I think he will feature at some point, whether it's off the bench or starting, it remains to be seen. Ruth, I will expect to come on at some point. John, with the point as well, says, I remain unconvinced on Matondo off the right is right. Maybe an alternative option. Get his point as well, Joshua. I think on the left, we've seen the best of Rabbi Matondo. On the right-hand side, jury is still out for me. But I think I'm selecting him on that right. I think his pace could cause Benfica a few issues. I think their defence is gettable. Let's hope we have a similar display as he produced when he came off the bench against PSV, and he will surely be buoyed as well with the call-up to the Welsh national team for their upcoming Euro 2024 qualifier. So he's a player that I'm sure will be full of belief and will fancy this tonight.
Yeah, and he's had a frustrating season, Matondo, because obviously he came back after the summer and that he wasn't really a name that was on anyone's lips. He started well, came off the bench a few times, scored against St Johnstone away, obviously that fantastic goal against PSV. Then he got injured towards the end of Michael Beale's tenure when he was one of the better performing players. You remember that game. It was at Motherwell he was forced off against with a knee issue, and he's had a knee issue throughout his career. When Dessers scored the deflected goal, it came off the back of a Matondo shot. Yeah. Then he came back into contention under Clement. Clement, someone who knew him from his time in Belgium. And without lighting the the heather on fire after the winter break, he won the penalty at Dumbarton, scored at home to Aberdeen, scored at home to Livingston, created on away at Hibs. There was moments, there was stuff to hang on to, but then he gets injured again. So whenever he's threatened to start building up a bit of momentum, it is kind of been quashed. Derek, I think a lot of people still remain unconvinced about his long-term prospects, but what he can do in moments, and tonight will be a moments game. Off the right-hand side in possession, I think he struggles a bit more because he's not got the ability to kind of cut back on his right foot and keep the ball. Instead, when he goes down the line, he's going to beat most players for pace, but he's maybe a little bit more predictable on the right-hand side than the left-hand side. Scott Wright has obviously played a lot of European games before, and the appeal would be he's going to work hard defensively, he's going to give you a lot the other way. But I'm with you. I think it probably will be Matondo because he's the one who came off the bench for the kind of almost an hour of the game away at Hibs on Sunday night. Not long back from injury himself, so you'd expect that Ross McCausland would play a little bit. But Cole McKinnon gives you a bit more of a defensive option, perhaps, because he's nominally a central midfielder. And Kemar Roof, don't expect him to start. I think Rangers should have Kemar Roof. I wouldn't be opposed to not starting Kemar Roof between now and the end of the season, because there's so much of a risk attached to that. He could still come off the bench 2-3 times and make a huge impact. And while he might only play 40, 60, 80 minutes over the course of those games, we saw what he could do in Real Betis, and we saw time and time again just how good a player he is. I think Clement will continue to use him just as that super sub, if you want, instead of risking playing him and having him break down. As a bench option, he can be really valuable. Keep him for that last 20 minutes of the game and see where the game is at that point.
Yep. As you know, we are also live on Instagram. There's a comment that's popped up that's caught my eye. Paul Milligan says, in a game where we might have limited chances and have to be ruthless, I'm very worried about Matondo and Dessers. Hopefully the tie is still alive on the hour mark for Roof to come on. So not feeling optimistic is Paul. I've got to say, I am optimistic. I fancy Rangers tonight to do the business. Whether it goes at the whole hog and we go to penalties, who knows? Let's hope that is not the case and Rangers get the job done in 90 minutes. And there's a point, I'll bring up a clip, an interesting point from Philip Clement from the press conference, ties in with some of the comments here. Ian Thompson says, got to get behind the team tonight, make Ibrox the intimidating place we know it can be. We're extremely difficult to beat at home. Francis also echoing that the roar of Ibrox will frighten Benfica. Some of the players don't know what's in store. This is what Clement had to say. Incidentally, he was asked by a Portuguese journalist that you stated that Rangers were courageous last week. Will that need to be the case tomorrow with so many players out? And this is what the manager had to say.
I saw enough today. I see the freshness is back. The hunger is really big. And we know we need to play above our level to qualify, but we're going to do everything to do that. And with the support of the fans, that can give something extra. So this game was sold out really fast, although it's a really early kickoff. And a lot of people have to take a day off of work to get to the stadium. But we could have sold the stadium 2-3 times. So that means already that how much support there is from the fans and that they're really excited for this game.
The manager also said, Joshua, that for this game, I hope the fans surprise me. I think if we can qualify for the next round, they can blow the roof off the building. We are going to need them in every second of the game, and we are going to need the fans to stay positive and to keep pushing until the last second. I say that because we are a team that can score 2 goals in a few minutes, as we have proved a few times against the likes of Hearts. So certainly calling on the fans to play their part tonight, Joshua. I don't have any doubts that they won't be playing their part. They can be the 12th, 13th, 14th man, I think, tonight. We know what Ibrox is like on European nights. Is that something that might spook the Benfica players, as Francis mentioned just a short while ago?
It's a cliche thing, and you see if you're outside, if you're watching this podcast this morning and you maybe haven't witnessed European nights at Ibrox, you'd maybe think that's not too much of a factor, but it just is, and it has been proven over a number of games, hasn't it? Cam was back tonight as well, which obviously gives some nostalgia of the run to the road to Seville in 2022. The home crowd can play such a big part in tonight's game because it's set up so well from the first leg. Derek, if you'd given anyone, you wanted the tie to be alive, even if Rangers were a goal down tonight, there'd be real belief that if they can get the first goal and level it up on the night, they can go and win. But the fact it's poised at 2-2 means that Benfica will have to come out. We'll talk a little bit later in the podcast about maybe where their weaknesses lie and how Rangers targeted those weaknesses last week. But, everyone watching the show have been at Ibrox enough on a European night in recent years to know how powerful the home crowd can be, what that noise can do to opponents. We've heard, story after story. Last season, was it the Union USG keeper said he had to take painkillers after the game because he's had a sore head from the noise. There's stories after stories of that, which again can become slightly cliche, but time after time it has been proven that the Ibrox factor really does impact these European nights. And I think the most important part about that, Derek, is that if you listen to what players were saying on that road to Seville specifically, but also after that, Rangers are on their European run of their own this season, is that the players then believe that. Jack Butland speaking to you in the mix zone after last week's game in Lisbon said that they believe they can take anyone on at Ibrox. And again, some might rate that off as cliche if they're not in amongst what is happening at Ibrox, but you do get that sense that the players have that belief. And that's really important, because if the game was 2-0 and it was maybe Benfica travel with a bit of confidence, then it's slightly different. I'm sure they'll want to quieten that atmosphere, but Rangers at home, even against an opponent who are a really good opponent. You see how much Arsenal struggled against Porto, I know they just beat Benfica, but they're still behind them in the league table. So a really difficult opponent. As Clement said last week, you need that. I think he said an outstanding goalkeeper, a bit of luck, and to play above yourself to go through. Rangers were able to do that in Lisbon last week. And I think if you add in tonight, the Ibrox factor, which is just that unique element and has seen Rangers through so many European ties as of late, and crucially now, I think because that bond is back somewhat, sticks with the players when things maybe aren't going exactly to plan. And of course, I think that's going to play a huge part in what happens tonight.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it that the noise can affect players. I remember I had a chat with former Leeds defender John Newsom a good few years ago and spoke about the game when Leeds came up for that Champions League qualifier. He said that Gary McAllister was screaming at him from about 3 yards away and he couldn't hear a word he was saying. So it certainly has an impact, and I'm sure it will do so, pardon me, this evening as well. And we heard John Lundstrom, I think, recently as well. I think earlier on in the season, saying that it gives them that extra sort of 10% when they walk out and they hear that noise. So, don't underestimate the power of the supporters tonight. As Stuart Ferguson says as well, back cam is back, so it means a Rangers win. Cannot wait to see that flying about the roof of the club deck, Joshua. Hopefully we see it a good few times and the fans going bananas in that stand. And I'm sure that, well, every time back cam makes an appearance at Ibrox, Rangers do go on and win, so perhaps that is a good omen. Just on Clement's press conference as well, Brian, spot on here. How good was Clement at the presser? He oozes class and authority, always confident with him in charge. That was it, Josh. I mean, it's a huge game, big pressure. Well, I say pressure, but I mean, the stakes are high, but he just seems calm, measured, relaxed. I like the question that Chris posed to him at the end of the press conference about the game. Chris asked him, is Rangers still underdogs in the tie? He said, yeah, I think so. If you're realistic, yes. In my heart, no, I'm also a realistic guy, but a realistic guy who puts his standards high. I know, and I have seen that this team can do that. I told him also before the Benfica game that with Bruges, we played Real Madrid and got a 2-2 draw. We deserved at least a point, and we could have won that one. But this team is better, this Rangers team, for me, than the team that was there. I believe we can win on a top day when the things fall on our side. We can win against whatever team. I really believe that really hard. And he's got the players believing that as well, Joshua. I don't think they'll be overawed tonight. I think they proved that last week against Benfica on their own patch. And we'll get to a few slides that you've filed away to bring up for the viewers' pleasure to have a wee look at see how Rangers can exploit this Benfica defence this evening.
Yeah, well, you look at the first goal, Derek. We'll look through really where Benfica showed weaknesses last week. So this is the first goal. I'll bring the GIF up, which I know you like. I'll just play this through a couple of times if people haven't watched our new Rangers Review Extra shows. Then, firstly, why not? But secondly, you can go and watch a number of them. We did one on Benfica's weaknesses before the first leg last week, Derek, specifically looking at where they're vulnerable at the back post, which is where both the Rangers goals come from. But if you look at the GIF here, Derek, this is how Rangers pressed up. We showed this in our Mohamed Diomande video. Rangers pressed up, and this is 6 minutes in. Clement said, we're not going to, he said before the game, I think it was to Rangers TV or maybe TNT Sports, he was saying, look, use the phrase like we can make them tremble if we go and attack them. Instead of just sitting off and giving the opposition control, you've got to remember that Rangers are a goal away from not only having that famous night in Seville against Real Betis, but also being the first team in, I think, 30 attempts to beat Benfica at home in the Europa League. You can see here in this frame, I think they have 7 players pressing in the opposition half at the start of the game. But if we play it on a little bit more, I'll stop it just when it gets to the penalty box. And you see here where I think Benfica are weak and where both of these goals come from is crosses at the back post. You can see just to the bottom left of that frame there, David Neres, he is the left winger in this picture. Dujon Sterling, I believe he said to you after the game in the mix zone, Derek, that Rangers knew that crosses into the box were where Benfica were weak and they didn't really track runners into the box. And if you look at Dujon Sterling's movement between these two frames to the front post, it's very deliberate to take Arsenis away. He's a left back, take him to the front post, which is where Lawrence scores that goal from. So Rangers creating a 4v3 in the box. You look at that frame where David Neres is right at the edge of the box. And it was very similar for the second goal. I've just got this in slides. This came after a corner. It was a deep free kick. Connor Golson's down in the box. Fabio Silva. Some people said it was a shot. I think it was a pass. And I'm saying it was a pass because it was a pass that took
I don't think it was a shot.
No, I think it was a pass. Yeah, it took out 6 players. But if you watch Dujon Sterling's movement again, in a different phase of the game, Rangers able to create a 2v1 at the back post. Sterling moved like a striker in this example. But both goals came from very similar situations, Derek, which is that when Benfica commit numbers forwards, they commit a lot, and they also, because of the structure of their team, if we move on to the pass network from last week, and all this is doing is kind of charting average positions. If you look here, you can see that the widest players on the right side, Alexander Ba, and on the left side is Frederick Orsnes. That's your fullbacks. They rely on their fullbacks for width while simultaneously really attacking with a front four. You can see how high, Rafa Silva is your number 10. He's actually ahead of Arthur Cabral, who's your number 9. David Neres and Angel Di Maria on the right and the left. They like to play in close combination. They often really attack in a 4-2-4. But that means that not only is there space to hit in transition, as you can see down the side of the defence, not only does it rely a lot on João Neves, the 19-year-old who's fantastic to pick up a lot and do a lot of defensive work in the midfield, but it means that when Rangers are able to attack quickly, they can create these situations where the fullbacks are isolated. You can create 2v1s against the fullback, and we've seen that repeatedly. The goal that Toulouse scored in the previous round, a 2v1 on each side. If you go back and watch the highlights of the Sporting game, the Porto game, all very similar goals. And the point being that against that quite attacking setup, Derek, with obviously on the other side, real quality to keep quiet, because then the risk is, okay, if you keep Neres and Di Maria high, then maybe you're a little bit vulnerable defensively with your fullbacks. But then when the ball goes quickly up the other side, you have a lot of space to attack into, which is why last week when I think the game got stretched, Rangers looked a little bit vulnerable. But just finally, keep an eye out for this tonight. How can Rangers create these 3v2s, 4v3s at the back post? Probably won't be with fullbacks running to the back post because Tavernier and Ridvan will have to stay deep because of the threat of Neres and Di Maria on each side. But again, why Tom Lawrence probably starts is it's a game for him, as we saw in the first leg, to use that movement as we saw for the first goal and allow Rangers to create overloads against the fullbacks. That's where they scored both of their goals last week, and expect it to be a big factor as well this week, whether it's James Tavernier getting forward or the number 10 trying to be clever and see where the space is in the box and try and exploit Benfica, as Rangers did twice for that goal. Their 2 goals over in the reverse leg. As I say, obviously the other side is you've got so much quality to keep quiet, and it only takes Di Maria or Neres or João Mario, who didn't even play last week, or Rafa Silva. They have so much quality that if they can get into those pockets of space in the central areas of the pitch, they're going to punish you. So that's what Rangers need to measure out. Can Benfica live with their intensity, though, if they go right from the off tonight? I'm really interested to see how it plays out.
Yeah, absolutely interesting stuff as ever. Of course, Benfica are packed with quality players. There's no doubt about that. But the manager under a bit of pressure. They're not playing the style of football that the fans are enjoying at this moment in time. That being said, I still think they will cause Rangers a few issues tonight. They need to be switched on defensively. The 2 goals that were lost last week, the first one's just a nonsense. The handball rule is just idiotic for me. It needs revamped. The second goal, it's a good free kick from Di Maria. Connor Goldson, though, anywhere but his own goal. If he can do that in the Benfica goal tonight, then I'm sure we'll all be jumping for joy. But let's cut out the own goals tonight, please. But Di Maria, there's argument that he shouldn't be on the plane, Joshua, over to Ibrox for this game. I think he was a lucky boy not to receive 2 yellow cards in the game last week. He is a player that Rangers will have to keep an eye on tonight.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them, as we mentioned there, Derek, isn't there? Because even off the bench, you look at the amount of money that Benfica spent. What was it? Nearly 100 million in the summer transfer window last year. They have a lot of quality. Clement pointed out pre-match, I think, the difference in squad value from Rangers to Benfica. But I think that's why it should suit Rangers to go and be aggressive and try and stop them at source and press them and make life difficult. Because if you do set off Benfica, then they are going to. I don't think you could afford to last week, for example, sit in a low block and just expect to get away with a 1-1 or a 0-0. So a lot of quality to keep quiet. And obviously, Rangers don't have I think Benfica only had 1 injury on TNT Sports, it said last week, which was their left back Bernat. But aside from that, they have a full complement. Rangers very much do not have a full complement of players. This would be a good game to have Sima and Cortez in particular, because of how dangerous they could be out wide against those weaknesses that we've just noted. So yeah, you're right. A lot of quality to keep quiet, but what we have seen with Clement, especially away from home against Betis and and Benfica is that he's not going to show them too much respect in regards to giving them the ball and trying to hit them on the counter-attack. He's going to try and press them high and be direct when they attack, but not kind of give them the impetus with the ball, which I believe is what he'll go for again tonight. As you say, though, to go through, you need everything to be right because you need to keep all these players quiet. You need Butland to have another fantastic game as he did last week. If he gets the England call-up today, then I don't think he needs any extra motivation, but he'll certainly be going into the game in a good place. And you need both your centre-backs to have a good game. In open play, Goldson and Suter did, but obviously Goldson makes that mistake for the own goal, and Suter, not much you can do about the penalty, I guess. So yeah, need big performances, I'm sure, from everyone, not only on the ball, but to keep what is a very talented frontline quiet.
Yeah, Denzel, the point says Goldson will have to cut out the mistakes tonight. His passing choices are sometimes less than optimum these days. Absolutely, everyone has to be on it this evening if Rangers are to progress. Cannot wait for it. Aldo with the point, he says, I haven't experienced an Ibrox European night since we played Werder Bremen in 2008, so I can't wait for tonight. What a night that was as well, the famous 2-0 game.
That was a Davis goal, was it, where Davis slid in? Who scored the opener that night?
Daniel Kuzan from about 500 yards away. The goalkeeper, Tim Wiese.
He dropped it, didn't he? He dropped it over the line, and then he spilled the second goal. So there was another example of the Ibrox atmosphere giving a goalkeeper a sore head, maybe.
Yeah, and then he chucked football, I think a few years after, and became a wrestler. I think he joined WWE. So, there you go, a bit of information there on Tim Wiese, the former Werder Bremen goalkeeper, folks. Right, just a quick one as well. Rangers have urged supporters to leave plenty of time to get to Ibrox. On a statement on the website, they say Rangers acknowledge the inconvenience caused by the early kickoff time and recognise the additional effort required from our supporters to attend this match. To mitigate the anticipated congestion due to rush hour traffic and also busier than normal public transport, we all urge all supporters who are able to arrive early to do so. This will also assist in easing the flow of fans entering Ibrox. So yeah, just a reminder, a 5:45 p.m. kickoff tonight, folks. Not ideal. It's due to TV, unfortunately, but a lot of fans will be having to, I'm sure, put in half days, I'd imagine, to make their way over to Ibrox. Will be a bit strange having that 5:45 kickoff, Joshua.
I was trying to think of the last time there was a 5:45 kickoff in Europe, and it'd probably be the COVID season, if memory serves me, when obviously Rangers did a good year in the Europa League that year as well. But yeah, it will be a bit strange because it won't quite be dark, but then I'm sure when everyone gets there, it will be the build-up will be the same. I'm sure a lot of people, as Clement said, will have taken a day off work or a half day off work at least to make the game. But yeah, just echo what you said. Expect it to be very busy, but I'm sure people will be already have made their contingency plans to get there nice and early. I know I have. I know you're not going to be there, but you will be joining us on the podcast later. So lots of coverage to come for people of what is hopefully another memorable European night at Ibrox. It's fun if you could put money on Rangers turning up on any occasion in recent years. It's tended to be away from home in Europe as well, but it's these European nights on a Thursday which seems to just bring something else out of this squad. So really looking forward to it, Derek, and full coverage of it right throughout the day on the Rangers Review. Yeah, absolutely. I love this. Graham says, thankfully, I have some flexi time built up, half day today and a half full day tomorrow. I feel like a kid at Christmas. I know how you feel, buddy. Right, yeah, looking forward to it. We will be back about 4:30 for the team news reaction video. The teams will be dropping around about that time. So we hope you can join us for that. And then we'll have all the usual post-match reaction video as well, where hopefully we're reporting on Rangers booking their place in the last 8 of the Europa League, which would be some achievement. There is no doubt about it. Right, thank you to Joshua and to each and every one of you for interacting with the show as ever. If we don't speak to you later on, then we hope your team wins. Bye for now.